Recording in progress.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the January 2024 El Dorado County Fire Safe Council meeting. We have, of course, nothing can start off without a little bit of a snafu, and apparently our Zoom link did not have a password associated with it, and folks were unable to log in. So I have just literally sent out a new link to the email group, and I've got folks starting to log back in. So as folks are coming on board, we'll do that. So we may be having folks join us a bit late as they catch up to the new link, but I don't want to. It looks like we're going to have a quorum anyway, so I don't want to delay the meeting too much. I'd like us to probably get started with some of the early business. So with that, if folks are ready, let's stand. And oh, where's our flag?
It's tucked in.
Okay.
Oh, let me.
Hang on a sec. Yeah, he was gonna. If someone could move the flag out, that would be great. Thanks, Justin.
See what's happening?
Thank you. Okay, if we could lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
I gave.
Okay, so for folks that are here, as always with our housekeeping, Carrie has the sign-in sheet in the back, right, on the back table. So please, if you're a board member or others, please make sure you sign it so we get folks credit for being here. Everyone should have received on the board a copy of the agenda. Looking at the board, any changes, additions, or corrections to the agenda? David, microphone.
Sorry. I just started, I'm already wrong. I would like this thing to be permanently ahead of me on the project report. So he goes there and then I'll be DOC. If I step on his line and he doesn't like that.
No, you can leave me right where I am. I don't have to be before him. I'm satisfied. Thank you very much.
Well, we'll just, when we get to those sections, I'll just look at you both and make sure we're on board. It's not, not a
rumble at the end of.
yes, it's kind of. But yeah, go at each other for that. No, I appreciate that, David, for being sensitive to that. We'll work on that. Any other discussion on the agenda? Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda as presented? Aye. Any opposition? Right, today's agenda is approved. Okay, should all have received a copy of the minutes in the board packet. Any additions, corrections, discussion on the minutes as presented? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the November board meeting signify by saying aye.
Hey.
Any opposition? Right, minutes approved as presented. And again, thank you, Carrie, for bringing that forward. Hey, we have no new business on the calendar for today, but under old business, I'm going to have we've talked about before, I will have a continuing item on there for an update to the Community Wildfire Protection Plan from the Office of Wildfire Preparedness and Resilience. Recognizing there may not be a lot happening here in the early stages, that's certainly going to ramp up, and I really want that to be a consistent part of our agenda and discussion throughout the course of the next year as that process is working. So I've invited Tom Meyer as the program manager to provide that ongoing update for us. So I will turn the floor over to Tom.
Thank you, Kat. Good morning. On the CWTP project, I think we're a little behind our anticipated schedule and how quickly we were hoping to get this project kicked off. But we are encouraged with the consultant that we selected. The RFP for the project closed back in November, and we had a panel consisting of both Ken and I from OWAPR, and then also Tamara Johnston, Megan Sheeline from CAL FIRE, and Thea Graybill from the county's planning and building department, kind of sitting on that panel to evaluate proposals. And then we took it one step further and interviewed the top 2 consultants. It was really kind of neck and neck, but we ended up selecting consultant Jensen Hughes. We're excited about what they are going to bring to the table for this project. If I recall correctly, they had about 30 plus years of experience completing CWPP updates and other similar type projects, kind of in counties and jurisdictions that are very similar to El Dorado County, but with that rural nature and a lot of the other characteristics our county has. One of the other major selling points with this consultant was their experience and what they were planning for this project in terms of their hazard and risk assessment, and then fire behavior analysis and modeling. So for lack of better words, kind of the nerdy side, I think it'll really provide a lot of value and help guide the creation of the CWPP. Where we're at now, Ken and I are meeting with a consultant tomorrow. We made a couple of some minor changes to the scope of work, and they're going to discuss that with the consultant, and then get on to finalizing the contract negotiations, and then get it through the contract process with the county. So we're hoping for an anticipated start date of March this year. And then the first step will be to hold a kind of project kickoff meeting with a working group that we established for the CWPP. And then we do still have the CWPP page on our website right now. Hasn't been updated. There's not really a lot to share at this point. But once we have the consultant on board, we're going to kind of turn that over to them, and they're going to create a website to track project status, share information about public workshops and their engagement with the community, and then also an opportunity, and they'll share information on how to submit feedback. So again, common theme with this project is that kind of grassroots level of engagement with the community, all the fire safe councils, and kind of just from the ground up. So looking forward to that website or dashboard that they create. And that's about it. Do I have to share unless we missed anything?
No, I think that was well covered, Tom, but I also want to throw it back out to Megan and Tamara, who were definitely not shy during the process to articulate thoughts, which was super, I think, welcome and important. So I don't know if either one of you, I know I'm throwing you on the spot, but any comments of, what we were discussing in the review during the process?
Just a little bit more about what Tom came with the review part of the proposal. It's all about selected how to really get basis in science and modeling, and so I appreciate that working up. They were going to use really solid data to make their decisions. So I think that was really good part of it.
See, Tamara, anything from your? Okay. So Alice had her hand up, and then we can go to Chris.
May sound like a broken record here, but so I love to be this person has lots of expertise and stuff and experience, but in the past, CWPPs have except for fuel breaks and fuel reduction, and of course I'm interested also in the education part. And when you talked about the strength, I didn't hear anything about education there either. And so could you let me know that I shouldn't be worried?
And they proposed a series of workshops, and so there's going to be that extensive outreach and opportunities to both educate the public on what the CWPP translates to, but also take that feedback and develop the final version.
And I think that's oh, great, Else.
somewhere like that on site.
Yes, and I think that's where we're excited to kind of turn that piece over to the consultant because they have far more experience and expertise than our group at least has with reaching out to that broad group of stakeholders and interested parties.
Well, and that was why I was poking at Tamara a little bit, because I mean, that was really important during our discussions in the review of these, and Tamara really represented and kept us honest there, to be honest with you, to make sure we weren't forgetting that as well. And we took the public outreach education, and I think it's really important to emphasize it's, as we're going forward with this, we want it, it's not the same, it's not just about fuel breaks, and it's, we want this to be more than that. And I think because we've heard that loud and clear, and I think that's what we're trying to really articulate. And when we sat down afterwards, we met with Sue and other folks, it's like the county's prepared to step in and do whatever it takes to, if there are gaps we need to fill in, that's not necessarily in the contract, that maybe there are other weaknesses that we want to fill any of those voids as we go through this process to shore that up. Absolutely. Chris.
Tom, there was a minutes, in the minutes of the November meeting, you also had made a announcement about what was going on. James, what I see in here, it says, we've added a tab to our website to give out general information. We have a copy of existing Western El Dorado CWPP and Tahoe CWPP. What I recognize is, because I've been around so long, is that this process is different than other CWPPs that have been generated. The acknowledgement that it is different, it has a different force to it. Let's say a different effort that's part of the engagement is important to any of the associate car safety councils, because if they remember the past, it isn't that way anymore. It's different, and the recognition is that we're trying to generate the best information possible. So Alice's comment about education, I took it as education within the final document, that there be a section talking about education and how you get the word out, not the education that you learn from being part of the process, which is an education in itself. Do you understand?
Yeah, I know exactly what she was asking, and that's why I said it's not just about fuel breaks. It's about the broader component of things that we want to have in this document as our, because this is our, no different than the existing document. This is our work plan, right? This will generate the things that we as a community in this kind of want to engage on. And it isn't just about fuel breaks. It's all the things we've learned over the course of the last 5 years, 10 years about exactly what Alice said. How do we influence behavior? All of that. So that's exactly what we're looking at differently. And what's very important to point out, it is not discounting any of the existing plans, right? That's where we're starting from, but it is a new way of doing it. When it's not the way we used to do it, but it's where it's the process that's being used is being looked at across California. These online tools, these dashboards, all of that is a much more dynamic way for us to not only have a plan, but to show how we're implementing it, making changes and being dynamic over time. And a big piece of this is how we're communicating and how we're talking to our communities and having something that's more readable that way.
So I effectively hear your words and I understand, but they could be taken different ways in different contexts. The context I'm looking for is something within the document itself that gives someone who doesn't know anything a little glimpse of what education is as they attempt to educate their respective associate fire safety council people, that group, that community. They can have a little bit of information on how that can effectively be done and the resources that are available for making that happen. That would be, in my mind, in the document. You may have a different perspective. Tom may have a different perspective on what the final document looks like, because other CWPPs didn't have that effort, or at least in my mind, didn't have that effort described very well. do you see the,
I completely understand what you're saying. And here's the thing, we're not building the CWPP today. We're giving you the highlights of in the process, and you're absolutely right. And throughout the course of the next 12 months, all of these discussions will, everyone, all of us will have an opportunity to put these discussions on the table to ensure when we're done with the plan, it's what we want. All of us.
Okay.
So any other questions for Tom or the group about where we're at in the process? So thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Again, it's going to be, like we said, it's you know, we're in the process of putting the mechanics together, of getting the contract. We'll have to go, obviously go to the Board of Supervisors for final approval, which is why we're looking at sometime early in March to kick it off. So not a lot happening in the public sector on this. It's all behind the scenes trying to get the process put together. So more to come later in the spring. So moving on to item 8, I do have a few things on the chair's report today. And one of the advantages of being the chair, one of the few advantages that sometimes I get to talk about what's important and where we're at. And I think today is a perfect opportunity as we kick off the new year to just remind all of us of some things and where we want to be. And first and foremost, and I was remiss at the end of the fall, winter last year to provide some information that many of you may already know. And thanks to Bruce Dixon initially for bringing it to my attention. We just didn't get a chance to share it, but for those that don't know, longstanding, members of the Fire Safe Council from Rancho del Sol, Joe Atencio and Elizabeth Atencio, of course, attended and participated for many, many years. Well, Elizabeth passed away on October 11th. And so it was tough. And again, thank you, Bruce heard it right away, shared it, but we didn't have the information and couldn't get it out. But we have since, there was a memorial service for Elizabeth on December 2nd. I have not had a chance to follow up with Joe. He's been, obviously, this is a challenging time for him. But I just want to share that with everybody. And if you know Joe or have an opportunity to reach back out, I would encourage folks to do that. But in any event, that's
thank you, Ken.
yeah. The e-boards, as you know, we've been working real hard on, kind of where we're visioning and where we want to be as we move forward. Lots happening as things are growing. Our organization, the support we're providing, the grants we're working on, the projects, the things that we're involved in. And so Janet and I, as we brought to the board a few months ago, Janet and I have been meeting and interviewing several bookkeeping firms, some CPAs, to see what kind of services we could bring on board through a consulting agreement potentially to help with the day-to-day, invoice processing, QuickBooks management, et cetera. So I think we have another one today at 3. So we continue that process to look for what would be that right opportunity to blend what we're doing now with our CPA firm, Pat Turner, who primarily does our taxes, cuts our checks and processes the information Janet provides through QuickBooks. So we want to see what's the best opportunity for us to blend that service. Pat Turner doesn't provide that service. So we're looking outside of that. So we will come back to the board in the next month or two once we have a recommendation for where we want to go with that and chat with you all. So I wanted you to know we're continuing to work on that. Over the next month or two, we'll be coming back to you all from the e-board. We had a discussion at this month's e-board about this would be a good opportunity to really come back to the table and with some visioning for where do we want to be, over the next year and beyond, and what does the organizational structure look like? And this was a good opportunity. Tamara was one again that really helped us think through this discussion about probably time to put together a subcommittee, a small group, probably 3 to 5 folks to look at an organizational structure. Are there other changes we want to do? In the past, folks have talked about an executive coordinator. That shouldn't come from the e-board. I think that needs to come from the broader group. And so we'll work on putting some nuts and bolts together to come back and bring to the group to make some decisions. But think about if you're interested in participating in something like that. We'll strong arm somebody to lead that subcommittee. But this is pretty important because regardless of budget cuts and where things are going, none of this work's going to go away. And I think we know this organization is always going to be front and center in engaging in this wildfire mitigation, education, and preparedness space for our county. So how do we want that to look going forward so we can best support all of our programs? And so we'll come back to all of you, work on putting together, I'll make the recommendation that we put together a working group and to come back with some broader recommendations to all of us. But I want to put the bug in your ear now to be thinking about that, and we'll come back more formally for a bigger discussion on that here in the next month or two. I tend to call this the silly season, but it's election season, right? And the process is well underway. And so this was just a good opportunity for those that haven't seen it, our political policy and actions position statement. So if you just go to the website under policy, article 20, that's XX, right? 20, yeah. So I only know it from the Super Bowl. I can figure that out. But we've got some good guidance there in our policy about how we engage in that. And I think first and foremost is just remember our bylaws direct us not to take any direct action to influence the election of candidates for public office. I think that's pretty straightforward. But I realize things get blurred during this time. There are a lot of issues out there that we're all involved in, and whether we're part of this organization or we're doing it with the many other things that everyone's doing. And it's easy sometimes for that to get blurred. And so I just want to remind everybody, where we're at. We protect our mission pretty tightly as a group because we're so respected across all of the various organizations, the politics, all of that. It's about what our mission is, to be that forum for education, providing information, and working on wildfire mitigation. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. But there are issues that can sometimes cross over into that we may, as a board, have to think about whether we take positions or not. And I guess all I would encourage you, if you're out speaking, think through who you're representing when you're speaking and make sure it's very clear that if it's not something directly related to our mission as fire safe councils, that you're representing yourself, right? Or if there's something that needs to come back and have discussion, we're certainly open to doing that. Or if you have questions, we're all available. Everyone's available to have that discussion if it's gray and we don't quite understand. So, Chris.
As you know, I'm very active in the community. That creates a conflict of interest sometimes. I got to be conscious of conflicts of interest because there's legal counsels and risk managers and things that obviously listen to me talk. Recently, I've become the president of the Taxpayers Association, and Monday we had a candidates forum that I had worked on over the weekend. Went very well. It was the first one. It was District 2. And so we had 3 people, the incumbent, and two people that are trying to become supervisor. Ken, this is extremely important, and I just wanted to let you know how sensitive it is as Fire Safe Council members of the County Fire Safe Council. We do have to be very careful. Just kind of think about it. Is there any conflict in what I'm saying and how I'm saying? I think if you feel in your heart that you're doing the right thing, then everything is probably copacetic. But your point is well received by me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I think putting the fine point on that, it's regardless of what we're doing or saying, it's always about respecting folks, whether or not we agree with that opinion or not. And whether they're a government employee or a nonprofit or a volunteer, everyone's out working hard to do good work, and let's just respect everybody so that we continue our relationships, because that's what's so successful for us right now. So those were the things I really wanted to open with. I'm sure there were some other things here we'll have some more opportunity to chat about today. But having said that, we don't want us an opportunity to hear from you, council. So
yeah, everybody dying.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss it? Oh, I'm sorry, David.
What are you doing on, what is it, the 24th?
Well, I'm not quite done with that.
Handing it over to you.
Well, I am. I will get back to that at a later time.
Great.
Good morning, everyone. I don't, as a vice chair, same stuff. I continue to meet with the FPOs, sit with the OWOPR folks, work on the defensible space ordinance, as well as now, work with our training group, to come up with training stuff. I'll talk more about that a little later under item 9, and also, still stay involved with our outreach folks. So that's what I'm doing as a vice chair. And when we get to, for sake of time, when we get to item 9, we'll talk about some upcoming training opportunities and things that are going on. That's it for me.
Wow.
Cost you $1 for like.
Okay, I'm gonna leave that one alone. Thank you, you. Secretary's report, Karen.
Okay,
Yes, thank you.
I think I'm good.
Okay,
I don't really have anything,
all right.
except for to thank everyone for their patience with their insurance requests over the holidays. The insurance company was touch and go on whether or not they were in, so some things got pushed aside. But I think we're caught up now.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, that's been we've been working through the process with the insurance carrier for a number of months now to clarify some things. Okay, next up, I have a microphone back to Janet for the treasurer's reports. And I know she's got stuff.
To see everybody. I submitted 2 treasurer's reports, one for November and one for December, so you should have 2 in your packet. A couple of items on the financial ops for the board, for the Fire Safe Council board, the December budget. I made some adjustments in discussion with the executive board to move money around to offset some of the deficits that were posted. The net to the bottom line is 0, but I increased the conference fees from 0 to $250 to address the wildfire conference that the chair and I attended earlier this year. I increased the rent budget by $1,200 because I failed to include the rent for this building in our beginning budget. That was my bad.
We did pay it though.
It's paid. It's paid, but we were going to be in a deficit. David was going to be all over me. I increased the travel budget to reflect the $610 of travel resulting from the conference that we attended. I reduced the insurance budget, but I may have done that too soon, but I reduced the insurance budget because I thought we had paid the final insurance bill. I may have to come back and amend that at a future time for a follow-up bill they've sent us. And I reduced the administrative services budget by $1,000 to cover the remaining increases because we're going to have some savings in that line item. So the net effect to the bottom line of the budget is 0. I just moved stuff between line items. And David, if you will look at the December budget for the Fire Safe Council, you'll notice there are no divide by zeros in it. I just looked at it.
No infinite remarks?
No infinite. As far as grant funding, we even though we shut down in December, we still spent over $50,000 in shipping and defensible space. We had a lot of invoices come in as our contractors completed the work that was previously assigned to them. Our one issue is and Tamara can talk more about this when it's her turn, but our one issue is with our defensible space grant from the California Fire Safe Council. We have not yet received funding from them for that grant. So in the interim, I have been using our reserve Title III money. So we are spending down our Title III money. If you look on our grants page, you'll notice that we have significantly spent that down. And in the interim, we're not assigning out new jobs for the defensible space program until that California Fire Safe Council grant finally comes through with their funding. We have talked with the California Fire Safe Council. They had some issues between them and their grantor, which was CAL FIRE. We've talked with CAL FIRE as well. We believe things are on the mend. But until we actually get word from them, we're not going to spend any more against that grant. We've already spent $60,000 against that grant that's sitting there right now that needs to be reimbursed. So that I think is the information that I have. If there's any questions, so let's start with Alice.
But it's okay to keep promoting the program, is that right?
Yes, we're gonna promote the program because we have several other grants in the hopper, and we're not indicating that we've shut it down. We're just holding off on issuing the new jobs to our contractors. And with the wet weather there, it's probably a good time anyway. Chris?
Yeah, thank you for being so creative,
Yeah.
Janet. I just noted again in our minutes from November that David gave you a hard time.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Yeah, David always gives me a hard time.
I missed that. No, I missed the fun you guys have. But I am picking up some things that are in here.
Mhm.
One of them was, it says, I will have a new budget proposal in January. Now, we're still in January.
And you have the new budget proposal.
And we have a new budget proposal. In what form? If you have a new budget proposal,
The adjustments that I just read off were the adjustments I made to the budget for the current year. The new budget proposal was to amend the current year for the items, the deficits that David was asking you to address.
Okay, then the question should be around the form of what the new budget proposal would be. A written form where it has at the top draft budget for 2024, or because you did read off those things that are the changes,
Mhm.
but I'm in a lot of organizations and they all do it differently. So I'm just raising the question of in what form would it be? Because I'm looking for a sheet that's like this, that has the proposed budget 2024 on it, or draft, or
So you're talking the 2024-25 budget or the amendment to the 23-24
speak to
budget?
that in a second, because some people may not know what type of year we have.
Correct.
It's a split year.
It is a fiscal year, July 1 to June 30th.
Okay. In that regard, then maybe I'm getting confused because of that aspect of it. When we say that we're gonna have a new proposed budget, maybe that would be July 1st. That would be the new year. You see where
I do, wording matters, and probably the correct wording was an updated budget for the current year,
Okay,
which is the amendments that I just made.
okay,
The 24-25 budget proposal doesn't generally come until May. For the 24-25
Okay.
is effective July 1.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You can have your dollar back.
Yes, no, appreciate the feedback. What Janet's responding to are the ongoing questions that come in on the budget, right? And she's constantly working to make changes, and this latest update was based on questions that David had asked, and she's trying to be responsive to that. So yeah, it's a bit of a process issue that we haven't done before, but obviously full transparency, maybe more than folks want to hear, but we really want to make sure people know what's going on.
If you want to know more, just let me know.
Yes, camera.
Just want to mention that it's pretty standard that nonprofits do a mid-year budget revision based on reality. So, you know, even though we haven't done it in the past, this is a totally standard thing that nonprofits do.
And I think we'll just shore up our process and nomenclature to make sure it's ingrained as part of the process. So definitely appreciate that. So any other questions or comments relative to the amended budget and treasurer's report that Janet presented? Well, that's kind of why I'm asking if there's any other questions. Yes, it's standard, it hasn't changed from meeting to meeting, David. So
You don't need to.
no, all those in favor of approving the budget as presented by Janet Berenson, the treasurer, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, the treasurer's report is approved as presented with the understanding of the comments for making changes to the report format in the future. So thank you, Janet.
Thanks.
Janet deserves a round of applause.
Well, and I will tell you, there's been a lot of a lot of hard work between Janet, Tamara, Jessica, and others, really getting to the bottom of invoicing and process and just really getting into the nitty gritty, and it's very much appreciated. Okay, now next up, partners reports. I don't believe we have anybody from BLM in the room. Don't see that. But we do have CAL FIRE, so I'll turn it over to Megan and Patrick.
The wildfire prevention and forest health grant both closed last week, so we're looking forward to seeing those applications and seeing what continuing and new projects are proposed in the county. And then finally, we're working diligently on our fire plan update, which is going to be out in May, our annual fire plan for the Amador El Dorado unit. And we will also have a representative participating in the El Dorado CWPP working group for that update. So to ensure that the CWPP update and our fire plan are in line. That is all I have today. Anyone have any questions? All right.
Oh, no questions for Megan. Okay.
Actually,
I jinxed it. I'm sorry. I know.
on the taxpayers, we were talking about the Nova Sage that talked about the high severity, very high severity zones. And there was somebody that made a statement. I just wanted to make sure, when does that become official and where are we in that process?
We are at the point where it's been submitted by CAL FIRE to the Office of Administrative Law for that right now. And
Is it official that's out?
you did get it in. Make that inside the server. It's on its way. Stay tuned.
Ken, just a second. It was the Logtown a meeting on last Saturday where this was discussed. The map was up. There was a notion of that there could be a line, a roadway, where one side might be in the area of high, very high, and the other side may not be. Within a general community, that is possible. It's not logical, but it's possible.
It's actually likely.
Yep.
If you have additional comments, come to us and we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. So next up is the Office of Wildfire Preparedness and Resilience, and I'm asked Tom, to come up to the infamous podium. There's a lot going on in this space, and it relates to a lot of the questions you're already asking. And so I think what I didn't do today, because the agenda was already had been through the e-board and was getting ready to go out, but in listening to feedback and listening to folks, we thought it was important to circle back with this group regarding where the process is at with the El Dorado County Defensible Space Ordinance update. And remember, and I went back to look, the ordinance update, it's been going on for probably 18 months now with a working group. Hugh has represented the Fire Safe Council from the beginning. They have been here discussing this, the county, the stakeholders, no less than 8 times in 2023. I went back and looked at all of the minutes. That included a very comprehensive report from Ron Phillips in February, where he walked through exactly where the process was going. And so there's been lots of opportunity for all of us to weigh in, and I know some have, and have met, but there are also a lot of questions out there now as the process is working its way towards going through the Board of Supervisors process. So this was a good opportunity to take another opportunity to bring this back. And I asked Tom if he couldn't include that as part of his report today from OWOPR, with the allowance that there's some members of the working group, the Defensible Space Group here, including Sue and Hugh, But ask questions. I mean, we can spend a little extra time with Tom. Let's talk about what folks are hearing, and another opportunity for us to ask questions in this process for an ordinance that has been here since 2019, only working on some updates to that based on things that have been learned. But there are also other things going on in OWOPR, and a lot that you should know about. And so Tom's prepared to dive into all of that. We'll have some discussion and do that. So with that, Tom, take it away.
Well, excuse me. So I'll save the ordinance. The last piece, so we just kind of talk that. Some exciting news first. Is Jenna Patrick, who's in the back here, is our new administrative agent, and she joined our office. Today is actually her first day in the office. She was doing orientation all day yesterday. So we thought, what better place to bring her? He has a lot of strengths that will be an asset to our office, and have her dive right into the Defensible Space Program, help out with the fire risk reduction communities and the public outreach aspect. And some of the initiatives that we're working on. So just wanted to say, well, we're excited to have you. The online mapping tool and data hub. We continue to meet with the GIS team from our surveyor's office. A couple of things that we've been working on recently. I've realized it's been a little bit since we had an update for the meeting in December, but some of our working groups have kind of taken a break over the holidays, but there has been a lot going on. One of the things that they have been able to finalize is updated boundaries for all the fire safe councils. So all of that is current, and that layer is up to date. We also made the decision as the group to go ahead and move forward with adding the Firewise community maps to the data hub. So they'll be working on that. It might take a little bit of time, but that's on their to-do list. And then one of the other things that we've been working with them and working through our office as well is adding project data or additional project data to the data hub. And that's for both historic and then planned or future projects, and then kind of working through some of the details as far as what to include and then project ownership. But I think with the common end goal of being able to have that serve as a comprehensive map to show just how much work is going on a county-wide level. So more information on that to come. The Weber Creek project, there hasn't been a ton of movement on that, but we're getting a little bit closer. The contract to hire a consultant to come out and do the environmental and historic preservation clearance is out to bid right now. And that's scheduled to close on February 2nd. So next steps, kind of similar to what we did with the CWPP consultant, is to put together an evaluation committee, evaluate proposals, and then if necessary, go through an interview process, and then just move forward through the normal contract process of the county to get that in place. Kind of a loose target then for start date would be April or May of this year. So then really what that work entails is going through and ensuring work can be completed and all the boxes are checked. Environmental clearance with no issue parcel list. Defensible space, county campus areas. Sections are underway in the Texasville CDA. We with Eldorado Hills Fire conducted the public workshop back on, I believe it was December 7th. Pretty well attended there, lots of good questions. At the end, we spent significant amount of time interacting with members of that community and answering questions. So those inspections began earlier this month and will continue through March. And then next up is the Allendale area. And so that public workshop is scheduled for March 5th, the Pioneer Park Community Center. And then after that, inspections will occur April through May of this year. And then through the Defensible Space Working Group and also the OWOPR Coordination Group, we're working together to identify those emphasis areas for the upcoming year. Trying to work through that process, so we can get noticing out, letters, all that stuff, and we can start hopefully in July or later in the summer to get that started. Firewise community coordination. For those of you that don't know, Richie Galvin is our regional coordinator. So he's been reaching out to, well, the process kind of started back in October, early November with the original application and renewal deadline. I believe it was November 17th. That ended up getting extended, but he had reached out to all the different Firewise communities, those that were interested in applying for that designation, to help them out with that application. That deadline ended up getting extended to the end of December. So he continued to work with all those communities, and all that were interested in either applying or reviewing their application successfully completed that process by December 31st. So we do have one newer applicant that is at least still in process, and that's Paloma Lotus. And then the other update is Omo Ranch was approved and in good standing as of early January. As you may have heard during the ordinance presentation, we kind of put out a teaser there. But one of the other priorities that our office is working on is applying for the fire risk reduction community list. And that's a designation through the California Board of Forestry. So what that does is, in addition to kind of some prioritization for the county in receiving this particular grant funding, it also adds a potential that residents would be eligible for an additional discount on our homeowners insurance policies. So there is an extensive list of criteria that has to be met, and an application submitted to the Board of Forestry by April 1st. So our office is working with both CAL FIRE and the county's planning and building department to go through that list. We've identified the criteria that we can meet, and working through to check off those boxes. There's a lot of steps and a lot of work, especially for the one that we're working with planning and building on. January 1st of 2013. And for any subdivisions or tentative maps or parcel maps that have been approved by them or since that time, go back, review the findings for each of those, and the fire safe plans or other findings relative to PRC 4290 and 4291, and complete a report for each of those. So that's a significant level of effort, but we're again working with planning and building to complete that process. And then there's a few others that one of which is the safety element. The previous version was updated in 2019. The update that planning and building is working on right now won't be completed before April 1st, but we're relying on the existing one. Similar with the local hazard mitigation plan. And then we'll be taking an item to our board in the coming month or so to adopt the current fire hazard severity plans. So lots of work to do on our end, but obviously a big incentive for the residents throughout the county. And then we're also working with both the city of Placerville and the city of South Lake Tahoe. They have to submit applications on their own for the incorporated areas. we met it yesterday with the city of South Lake Tahoe and had discussions with Fox results, so making sure that we're all on the same page and this was applications submitted before the deadline. So. And then we met yesterday, kind of circled back with the county's Department of Transportation. It had been, I think, 5 or 6 months since we met, but wanted to regroup. Really talk about project coordination and collaboration going forward. As we continue adding these projects and emphasis areas of work that both our office, the fire safety councils, the RCD are doing throughout the county, we really want to ensure that DOT has a spot at or a seat at that table and able to help us and help them plan for projects where there's a potential crossover or we can expand it just a bit to make it a complete package. And one example of that is the Weber Creek project. So we discussed that with them, and then we'll be having more regular going forward. And the ordinance. So we did have the first reading public hearing at the Board of Supervisors on December 12th. As part of the item, the board elected to kind of defer the decision on that and asked our office to conduct an additional series of public workshops to really kind of further educate the public on what this ordinance amendment is, how it may impact them, and then continue to just address any questions or concerns. Right now, the workshops are tentatively scheduled February 13th for the Tahoe Basin, and that's going to be at the Myers Elementary School in the evening from 6 to 8 p.m. And then on the West Slope, February 29th at Cameron Park CSB, same time, 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to meet together tomorrow with the Defensible Space Working Group, kind of finalize those details. But a flyer with that information will be going out effectively through Facebook, other social media platforms, newspapers, the county websites, to really try to cast a wide net and make sure it reaches as many people as possible. Both of those workshops will have a hybrid option. So for those of you that can't attend in person, we still encourage you to join remotely. And then as a reminder, copies of the proposed ordinance, the red line version of that ordinance, and then the table of changes document. Those are all available on the OWOPR website under the Defensible Space tab. And then as we get closer to these public workshops, we'll be adding more material there. And one of the ideas there was to, it was a long presentation and video of that, or link to the video, just as kind of an additional method of education, and then a copy of the PowerPoint that was presented for as well. So with that, happy to address any questions or concerns on the ordinance. Yes, or just in general, kind of open it up.
On the California Board, thank you, Tim. California Board of Forestry, can you tell me what that program was again? And it seems like there's nothing we can do as on our level until you've done the higher upwards, but what is the name of that program?
It's a long one. It's the Fire Risk Reduction Community List. And I forgot to mention this before, but so they update this list every 2 years. And so the application period is open from December first to April first. So if we don't meet this deadline, and we're working extremely diligently to meet that, we wouldn't be able to apply again for another 2 years. So huge priority for us.
And that's for you folks to do, nothing on the fire city council or firewise communities to do, yeah,
Correct.
okay.
And this would apply to residential throughout, under the county's application throughout the unincorporated areas of the county. They're just kind of a blanket wide designation.
I think you've answered it, but the Grizzly Flat Fire State Council looked at that and filled out for the non-city, incorporated areas, so we do not send it in, is that what you're telling us?
Correct. So.
But there's a lot of information in that other section that maybe.
They're not eligible.
Under the urban type of answer.
So there are different sets of criteria for different types of agencies. So there's one, and I forget the exact government that I'll mean. But it's for local agencies that are counties, cities, or counties and cities. So that's the criteria that applies to El Dorado.
Publicly funded.
Yeah, just for clarification, nonprofits are not eligible to apply for this. We were all a part of a workshop yesterday with the Board of Forestry, and they clarified that for everyone.
Okay, well,
So don't waste your time.
then now, that's a.
Well, I don't know what you're reading, Ernie, so we're
City.
correct, non-city, non-county government agencies, and that's why and Eric will talk about what they were coordinating where others may be looking at that, but yeah, just to clarify for everybody, which is why we have Tom here sharing what's going on. It is not, the county is taking this on behalf of everyone, and they're working closely with the two cities who will, it looks like most likely are interested in applying as those two entities too, with the intent here is to get this done so that yes, you as nonprofits and whomever else can apply for grants and be eligible based on the work that the county and the two cities are doing. Let's see, I'm trying to go in order and we'll try to get to everybody. Let's go with Alice and then we'll work out to the field here. Sure.
I'm curious, because when houses are closer to 25 feet, there's really not much mitigation they can do other than as a community. When they look at subdivisions, do they take into account spacing between houses?
I think, I'm not sure if you're referring to the state's subdivision review program. Well, those are
Tentative map.
those are tentative track maps.
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't know. Suits.
Seems like now, so much of the county is not very high. It's kind of diluted the usefulness of the document. I'm wondering if there's going to be eventually a very high, very, very high or something, where things are on top of hills or in saddles, or when you say you look at those zones, how is it used?
So for the purposes of this application through the Board of Forestry, simply the criteria is that the county, or in our case, the county and the cities have adopted an ordinance to adopt those fire hazard severity zones. So,
Just adopted, not necessarily using.
the criteria is, I believe it states adopt.
Okay.
Yeah, you can add some clarifying. Yeah.
Maps are submitted to the Board of Forestry, would it be evaluated based on where the homes are in relation to each other?
25 feet.
I'm guessing that I misunderstood when you were talking about subdivisions. I thought when you said you were looking back to 2000, I didn't realize it was the same thing you're talking about. So I was confused.
Okay, yeah, so the county needs to submit and have the Board of Forestry adopt or have a session, I guess, all the subdivisions since 2013. I don't believe that through this process, the Board of Forestry will be evaluating.
Okay, thank you. That's clarified. So you don't look at subdivisions for fire safety, you're just talking about the evacuation plan through the workflow.
And that full evaluation is done through the approval process for the subdivisions, and that's outside of our office.
Okay, so I'll talk to Sue about that. But I can answer you later. Okay, but coming back to the ordinance, the question was, we had a question about roads and you helped, Lester Lebeck in the Oak Hill Fire Safety Council. You had a good answer for him, explained to him how the designated roads only are the ones where property owners are responsible for clearing, next to a road. And so those designated roads haven't been designated yet, and there probably won't be a ton of them. They're mostly, we're kind of high level, the big parts where everybody's going. And so I was kind of confused about that because in Oak Hill anyway, we have tons and tons of private roads. They're all, evacuation routes, even though they will never probably be designated as such. And so people there's no requirement for anybody to be requiring, to be doing fuel reduction along those roads. Is that correct?
Right now, there are no designated roads. I do want to acknowledge that we've gotten a lot of concerns over this section. The main purpose of the amendments to this was just to kind of clarify what those requirements are. It was already in the existing ordinance. So what we really did was specify the criteria. So 10 feet horizontally on roadways and driveways, and then 15 feet vertical. So the county has taken a stance historically and likely to continue to do so, is we don't designate evacuation because we don't know where the fire is. And so it would be really doing a disservice to preemptively tell people this is your evacuation. We don't know until that time comes.
I can understand that. So what it seems like though is that it's a big miss not to be asking property owners of all these private roads to have some kind of responsibility for clearing them back. But I guess that's more road association.
So we certainly encourage that. And so there's a lot of initiatives in place right now. And kind of since the things have been so Walker did not exist at that time. So we've been really trying to take a step back and evaluate things on a bigger scale. So and really looking at roadways on a countywide basis through initiatives such as the OES's LHMP update, the general plan safety element, the subdivision review program with the one-way in out communities, our ongoing coordination with DOT to identify, they have a roadside hazardous vegetation program, or vegetation management program, working with them to identify, so we have a list of roadways that are, especially for those one-way and one-way out communities that are kind of our priority areas. And where can we work with DOT to kind of direct some of that work? And then just ongoing pursuit, both through OWOPR and fire safe councils, for additional grant funding for roadside treatment. So certainly encourage communities to work together to complete some of that work, but as of right now, that's it.
I think, Sue, did you want to, or any thoughts from your perspective? Perfect.
Again.
Provision being there in this year, the 2019 outcome from the public about roadway decisions, but improvements. And it ended up being kind of a little bit of a compromise. Comprehensive blanket requirements, that becomes, as you can imagine, probably the mile of the roadway, and I guess to enforce, I have to burden on people. So the compromise was, as designated, if we designate such roadways in the future. I think there was an idea too that it might be a useful tool for us if we were looking for grant funding, that, we might designate some roadways as parts of projects that might strengthen that. So we haven't really used it that way. Tom said, I think we're doing a very good job of describing. The way that we look at this now is it's a community thing. I think, even though if there's not penalty and requirement and ordinance, we're very, all of them together and look at those as it was. So, it's not something we're missing or not looking at. I think it's very, very important. But, whether or not, having a firm requirement and a penalty important is the best way to do that, we're gonna show that.
I'm gonna go to Pat right now, and then we'll come back to you. I'm gonna get everybody, so don't drop your hands, but I want to make sure we get.
Thank you. Comment. Ordinance. While I was not at the Board of Supervisors meeting in person, I was there in spirit. To the fact I reviewed the video with a big bowl of popcorn. And it was very good. I think it was very enlightening. A shout out to Tom and Sue for doing the kickoff part, but the guy that did the heavy lifting was Captain Shepherd. He did an excellent presentation. I think, there was a lot of angst in the audience and around the community about several topics, government overreach and money grab and all kinds of things were mentioned. And I think he did a great job of calming people down and saying, here's what we're trying to do. We're not bringing out the hammer. We're trying to do the carrot. But we do have enforcement capability. Because one of the comments we get at Logtown Fire Safe Council is people take good care of their property, but they say, what are you doing about my neighbor? He's an absentee landowner, bought it on spec and never has come, probably hadn't even seen the property. So how do we get that landowner to comply? This ordinance is a step in that direction. But then when we talk about the ordinance, they say, whoa, wait a minute, government overreach. So it's a dichotomy and it's a tough choice, but just wanted to mention Captain Shepherd and the job that he did in that presentation. I would encourage you all to take, again, make a big bowl of popcorn. Either by going to the Board of Soups website or when we get a link with the OWOPR website. Thanks.
Well, and to add to that, so Captain Shepherd represents the Fire Prevention Officers Association. He wasn't able to be online or here today, but he will be a standing stakeholder report out here. He represents, he's now, that was the role Ron Phillips was doing prior, and now Lucas has stepped into that role. Lucas is also chairing the Defensible Space Working Group for this collaborative, this coordination that we were talking about under OWOPR. And it's not just about the ordinance. The defensible space discussion is much broader about how we're doing in this arena. So yes, thank you for that. You'll be hearing a lot more from Lucas over the course of the coming months. Okay, I want to make sure I know we're getting new hands. Let's come back. Let's go to Chris, and then we'll come back out here.
Tom, it's remarkable. I missed your November meeting. I apologize, but from when you first came here, introduced yourself to right now, fantastic. Your reporting is very instrumental, I think, in getting general feelings or get the word out, and then prepared to take comments and questions. Maybe not here, because we obviously got to keep moving. To my point, there was a couple of things that I just wanted to comment on. The public health, safety, and noise element of the general plan. Most recently, just because I've been looking at it, 9 elements in the general plan. This is just one element, but I noted that it may be not keeping up with what's happening in terms of the impacts and the mitigation to those impacts. You have goals, objectives, you have mitigation to impacts. Ken, this is as important as anything. That general plan has got to be tight, because development comes from adhering to it. And therefore, I just wanted to state it as a comment, not as I'm expecting anything to happen immediately. But Also, before the meeting started, we talked about different groups that might be working on the ordinance review. And I had told you, Sage, surveyors, architects, geologists, and engineers. They have a subcommittee working on it. And also the Taxpayers Association has that's chaired by Pat Dwyer. It's called Fire Subcommittee. It's also looking at these kinds of things. That's my comments. Thank you.
Well, and thank you, Chris. And I will tell you that we heard about those, and we've already reached out to Sage, and there will be the county staff participating and helping answer questions with Sage. And I think the same offer stands for the taxpayers. The county doesn't know anything about what that meeting is, and would be happy to be at the table to answer questions so that there's an informed discussion on the history there.
Thank you, Ken.
So, and yes, and I would encourage everybody, many of the things Chris is talking about with the safety element of the general plan that he's referring to and others, all of that's part of the wildfire strategy that the Board of Supervisors adopted late last year, that we've talked about it here in ad nauseam. It's one of the principles of the strategy. If you go right down there, it literally lists the safety element as one of the numerous plans that are cross-pollinating and having this discussion. So they do exactly what Chris is saying, and that's what we've been working on for the last year with the planning department. So.
There was just one more that it was the homeowners insurance came up at the Board of Supervisors. People had come up to the podium speaking about what are we doing with homeowners insurance and the problems that we have in the state of California. I'm just throwing that out. That's one more thing that people are asking us as being part of these different associations and groups.
Right, and I think Tom's talked about it, Janet's talked about it, again, to remind everybody, and it was brought up at that Board of Supervisors meeting. The county has a webpage, in OWOPR, there's a whole section, there's a button right on insurance updates, and we're trying to keep that updated as we get new information and hear about it from the different organizations and agencies involved. It literally led to the discussion why Tom brought up the fire risk reduction communities, FireWise communities. All of those are things that are leading to trying to help with the insurance challenges based on what the Department of Insurance and the insurance commissioner is putting out relative to Safer from Wildfire initiative and other things. And so we're trying to put all of that in one place, and why it's really a priority, why Tom and Sue have really set some priorities to be engaging on those different initiatives for the program to ensure the county is able to do its part to help with that piece. So any other, I have Bruce, I had a question. I want to make sure we get to you.
Hi, I'm Bruce Dixon. I'm from Rankinville, Soul Fire Pickup. We're all homeowners associations. So I'm busy working on documentation for the homeowners association to live up to the deadline that is in the original ordinance for May of this year. With all these amendments, is there any change in that deadline? And it's not May 1st, it's the end of it, actually. It was a deadline that homeowners associations had to have a plan for maintaining defensible space and roadside clearing and all that sort of stuff. And they had to have it available to prove to the county that they were actually doing it.
Yeah, insurance ordinance doesn't talk about that.
Yeah, with vegetation management work.
There's nothing in the already talked.
So my question here is that with all these amendments going on, is there any change in those things?
No. No. Understand, you'll address that.
State law.
There's all been a lot of conversations.
Well, just, hey, and I think everybody keep in mind, there's an ordinance. The ordinance is there. It exists as it is, regardless of what process is going through to make amendments. That the ordinance is on the books and active today. It's why they're talking about working towards the next set of emphasis areas and doing these things. So until it changes, the provisions of the existing ordinance are what everybody's following. So if there are dates, that's exactly, I mean, those are all in ordinance. So I would think, understand that, and I guess this is a bit of and I will get on my soapbox, frustrating for me because we have talked about this for 18 months. 18 months, nobody was paying attention. Some were, but all of a sudden now everybody cares. Well, 18 months, we've been trying to get everybody's attention that we're trying to make that the group's trying to work on changes, and now all of a sudden everybody cares. Well, at the end of the day, this ordinance exists already. And I think when folks really dive into what these changes are, do exactly what Pat suggested, this isn't a new ordinance. This isn't like a complete wholesale redirection. This is making some minimal, but some changes based on lessons learned over the last several years of implementing what's already there. And that's really where the focus is with this. But the ordinance is already in place. All these things we're talking about have been in place since 2019. And I think that's really what we got to remember. Truly take the time, encourage the folks that are reaching out to take the time to understand what the actual changes are and have those discussions, because the ordinance as it is now, it's already there. End of soapbox. Okay, I want to make sure I know I wanted to allow time for this. Of course, we do have the rest of the meeting to get through, but I want to make sure I try to catch folks. And so, yes, Reedstone.
Community. In finite detail, but it would seem to me if you're a Firewise USA community, that you'd be compliant to a lot of stuff.
No.
No?
And again, this is Ken getting on his soapbox again. Firewise community designation does, as you all know, there are things, the criteria you have to meet. You have to do a risk assessment. You have to have an action plan that covers 3 years. But none of that implies that any of it is compliant with anything. It's in your risk assessment, you're identifying, actually in many cases, you're identifying what your weaknesses are so that you then can put that in your action plan. And I can tell you, many of these, the action plans are identifying, we've got to increase our reaching out to our community members to do defensible space assessments to help them bring up the defensible space around their homes. So in and of itself, Firewise has nothing to do with the ability to be consistent or meeting the requirements within either the state's public resources code for defensible space or the county ordinance. And I think that's a really important piece. But where the crossover is, and this is, I think, the most important piece here, the assessments that we trained, 70 of you took part in, it's the exact same information, the exact kind of evaluation that is happening in the inspections. Actually, it's even more enhanced, getting into more home hardening. So at the end of the day, if our goal is to work with our community members and get everybody up to par with what we're educating on, 0 person should have an issue with what's in the public resources code or the ordinance. It should be a non-issue. If we're figuring out all the tools and ways we can educate and bring tools to help our community members get there, these ordinances should be a 0 issue.
So when we go out to do home assessments, we should really make people aware of this ordinance, that it exists, it's there, you guys are compliant to it.
I think we should always be reminding people that the state public resources code since 1965 has required people to do exactly the same thing. Now the county since 2019 is mirroring that because it allows the county to work with fire districts and others to be able to have an enforcement tool at the local level. But at the end of the day, yeah, we should encourage everybody to know those are there, but that's really the lesser piece. The bigger piece is if we don't do this stuff, our homes are going to burn down. And so that's the message. It's like, look, yes, there's ordinances because I equate it to a stop sign, right? If a stop sign was a suggestion and not a law, how many of us would look around and say, I'm in a hurry today and go through it? And that's really where I get to with defensible space, whether it's at the state law or county ordinance level. I know I have to get this done. And it's all, even the most reasonable person, that's always sort of in the back of your mind, I got to do this. And no, I'm not going to be out there sitting at the stop sign looking for everybody who's breaking the law. Unless you're in front of a school, it's a high risk area and you've got this huge number of people blowing the stop sign and you're putting kids at risk. Same is true with the ordinance. This is not going to be the county or CAL FIRE going out and saying, we are actually going to police this to the end and take everybody down. It's like, well, no, but guess what? We've got this community where half of this community is working their butts off to treat their homes, and we can't get anybody else to do anything. And we've tried everything, and now we're putting the homes that are doing the work at risk because the people that won't do it are impacting everybody. And so there's got to be something at the end of the day, because of human nature, to make sure we have the ability to get this done. But that is not where CAL FIRE or the county is trying to go with this. They are not going to sit at the stop sign and wait for everybody to run it and write a ticket. But I will tell you, the consequences for not doing defensible space are no different than running a stop sign. You are putting somebody at risk, and it's not just about you. And I'm preaching to the choir, but that's the message to that's how we have to look at this. It's like, get it done. Long answer. It's like
Not know about the ordinance or the PRC 4291, whatever state code that is. And I agree with you. I get the same thing from people in our homeowners association. This is the big government kind of taking their hand. And I said, no, it's not. CAL FIRE is not out there to be punitive about this stuff. They want you to protect your homes. Period. So I hear you, but I would think that if you're FireWise and you have goals and telling people in the community, you know, that we have this FireWise designation, and we're going out there and doing home assessments. So we're bringing the word out. But a lot of people don't know about these ordinances. They just don't. So I think I will make that another.
I think in the spirit of what yours said, absolutely, right? And again, it goes back to the carrot, not the stick. I think in the spirit of what you're saying, absolutely, we want to encourage people to become FireWise. We want to encourage them to do. The whole idea here is to get the work done. And maybe some of us maybe are just too close to this. 40 years been working on this. 40 years been working on defensible space at all levels, and it's tough. Again, it's tough to come into communities and they've never heard of that. We're living in a wildland fire environment. We've had large losses in our state in the last 5 to 10 years. It's been on the news. We're living with this every day, and to hear that people don't know anything about this concerns me. And apparently we're not all doing our job. We have a again, this is where it comes to, we have a human nature issue, and it's no different than what's happening with insurance right now. There is nothing different that we're doing relative to defensible space. I mean, these are all things that we've been talking about for years, but now all of a sudden insurance is tied to it. It's important to people. And of course, I mean, we're all being infected by insurance, and we want this fixed, but if we're not careful, we're going to throw out the real issue here. And it's not about getting the insurance. It's about fixing our communities so they can't be insured. We're treating a symptom, not the problem. And I don't know, our job as fire safe councils and leaders in our communities is to make sure they actually understand, just because you're going to get insurance doesn't mean your home is safe. And I think we've got to make sure we don't get sucked into this argument that just take care of the insurance and everything's going to be fine. We are completely not doing our job in our mission if we fall down that rabbit hole and don't step back and make sure we take every opportunity to educate and help people get the actual work done, so they actually are safe. They actually can be resilient from a wildfire.
I'm just sad that I didn't video you while we were doing it.
It'll never come out like that again. It's different every time. Yeah, it's actually video. You can go look at it. So, all right. So I know that was a lot. Thank you for the little segue there. But I really do appreciate, there's a lot going on in OWOPR and the coordination. Hugh's been part of that. There's a lot of folks, and I would really encourage people to pick folks' brain as they're going along. I think Hugh's got something.
Well, I just want to give you an example. You talked about the ordinance, and I can give you a real example because we've been doing it. I've been doing it out in our area. A difference in the ordinance, CAL FIRE 4291 says you got to go 100 feet or to your property line. We have areas out where we are, and you all do, where people have bigger parcels, right? Well, the ordinance is set up, one of the amendments that has been made to the ordinance, it says that the inspector, whoever the inspector is, may, not shall, but may, if the circumstances are such, for example, you're on a slope, your house is up on the slope and you've cleared 100 feet. But beyond that 100 feet, you've got a giant manzanita patch or something down there, and that's your property beyond that. What I have done, and I have had, what manzanita, but other stuff, I have had that situation out in Texas Hill. And I just use the opportunity to educate the homeowner a little bit about fire dynamics and say, hey, you realize 100 feet here, probably not enough for you. It's probably not enough because that fire is going to come up. The flame link's going to be such, you're going to have all kinds of heat beating on the side of your house. So I really would recommend that you create go further with that. In this case, he could go all the way down to Weber Creek. Actually, it wasn't very far. And I will tell you that every time I've made suggestions like that to every homeowner I've inspected or assessed, they have done it. They didn't have to do it, but it was a suggestion. I said, and I used the ordinance. I said, county ordinance allows. And I said, I don't know if the inspector would come and make you do that. But from my background, my experience, I would really strongly recommend you do that. And they've done it. So that's a place that I use the ordinance where maybe there's a change a little bit different than 4291.
All right. Well, anything else, Tom, before?
Nice job, Tom.
It'll be that same or a very similar presentation that Lucas put on for the board of supervisors. So very informative, in kind of layman's terms for a lot of what the principal space means. So I encourage you all to attend, and we'll get the flyers out for those workshops with the dates, times, locations, and links for either Teams or Zoom. So was spirit system spreading that words. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And as he's heading back under the OWOPR umbrella to make sure I cover David's comment is that I will be speaking at the El Dorado Amador Forest Forum monthly dinner meeting next week. I believe it's at 6 o'clock, between 5 and 6 it starts at the Round Table Pizza there on Missouri Flat. And the information will be very similar to what it'll be, more of an OWOPR program overview, and many of the initiatives Tom talked about. We'll just be providing them at their request an update on what's happening in that program.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, did I hear?
Nakona.
When's the date?
For which? Oh, so it'll be next Wednesday, January 24th. The time is in front of me. It's between 5 and 6 o'clock. I believe the social part starts at the round table. You're welcome. All right, next up, I don't see anybody specifically representing the Fire Chiefs Association. Well, I have Krishana Fields on the phone or on Zoom. I don't know, Krishana, if you're prepared to represent the fire chiefs or just the fire prevention officers.
Good morning, Ken.
Good
I
morning.
was actually be present for the meeting. I'm not here to represent the fire chiefs. I was at the last fire prevention officers meeting. There was no update there outside of our approval of the letter that was requested from the Fire Safe Council for the grant. But otherwise, we don't have an update from the FPO group unless there are specific questions for our group.
Just looking in the room, anything for fire prevention officers? All right, thank you, Krishana.
No problem.
All right, and we'll circle back with the Fire Chiefs Association for the next meeting. Item 6, El Dorado National Forest. Do we have anybody? Don't see anybody from the forest in the room or online. I also, unless that means I don't see Mark or anyone from the Resource Conservation District here today. No. Hi, I think I know you. Oh, Courtney. I was kidding. What happened?
It's over there. Oh, okay.
Got it. Thank you, Mike.
Good morning, I'm Courtney Jackson with the El Dorado and Georgetown Five Resource Conservation Districts. I am the Communications Engagement Coordinator. I just started.
I think that's why I like the connection.
I'm also the council on Fortune, so. I'm just here to listen, bring back information to our CD and try to help communication, so you know what we are doing and we know what you are doing so that we can run. So, thank you.
Great, thank you, Courtney. Wearing both hats. Thank you.
You know where you're gonna be on March 20th?
Yeah.
No, yeah, good for you.
All right. It's a trick question. You setting you up. All right. Oh, yes.
Saw you at Minuteman the other day and I got a sticker. Could you mention that or how you can use them? I thought that was an important way to publicize.
Well, I'm so glad it had such an impact on you, Chris. And it's just to bring more awareness of what the RCD does. Now, you all know what we do, but in the general community, people don't know what an RCD does, how they are funded, what projects they do, and that we're not a regulatory organization in the office. So the more that the community knows that how we can help and what our role is within the community, I think it's going to be better. There, homeowners can be hesitant about working with governmental agencies, and knowing that we are just here to advise and help reduce risks. It's good all over. So if you want a sticker, I have a few.
Thank you, Courtney. All right, next up, Eric from SUD.
That's why you're welcome.
Yeah.
Three items. That's long ongoing fuels reduction work on our electric transmission corridor since 2019. This would be continued. This has been ongoing, and we started in El Dorado Hills and have made our way to Loon Lake. We have 3 remaining parcels along that corridor. It actually runs just north of Highway 50 along the American River Canyon. We have 3 parcels left that are underway. I would consider them challenging at times for us to accomplish the work we're trying to accomplish. But we're making headway with each one of those 3 landowners. There was over 1,000 parcels that we worked on to create some robust fuel breaks along that electric transmission corridor. That's one. Second one, been working for 3.5 years on a FEMA and Cal OES grant. It's a $5.5, almost $5.9 million grant to do additional fuel system around SMUD's hydro generation assets in the Crystal Basin, along the American River Canyon, and also along that electric transmission corridor. We just resubmitted our application. Reason why is when we originally submitted 3 years ago, we were awaiting an award, and while that was occurring, it kept getting prolonged with FEMA and Cal OES with whatever processes that were going on. Us as a utility did not have the ability to wait for funding. So I had put a business case together, 5-year plan, $35 million, actually got approved by our executives on the board, but we started doing work. Cal OES and FEMA approached us a month and a half ago and said, hey, we're ready to award. Fantastic. So, greatest project ever, fantastic, it's going to be great, we want to fund it. And then the days and days go by, outreach, no response, no funding, no signature on a check. We have to keep moving. Since then, obviously, Caldor mosquito fire, we don't have time to wait, can't wait as an organization for funding. So we proceeded with that work. We resubmitted our application on the 5th of January to widen that footprint. The majority of that work, if we're funded by CAL FIRE or Cal OES and FEMA, will start in Camino and work its way east. But we'll await that. There is no deadline, there's no date of award. In addition to that, or parallel to that, the company has submitted an application to CAL FIRE for fuels reduction work in a similar area. That grant application was prepared and submitted thanks to Ken, thanks to the RCD, thanks to US Forest Service, and many other organizations that supported us with letters of support for that application. And we'll await to hear from CAL FIRE in spring if we're awarded any of those future dollars. Again, that will expand that footprint. Primarily will be from Camino East. But we do have a robust fuels reduction work that we've completed all along that corridor. I would like to, at some point, if councils and parties are interested, to share some maps, some before and after photos, maybe some aerial imagery, give you an idea of how wide that footprint is. It's not a typical distribution, or it's not even a typical transmission level corridor with lattice steel structures. This fuels reduction work is at times 700 feet wide. So we're actually excited to share, looking forward to doing additional work as we get additional funding. Those 3 additional property owners that I had mentioned, we're going to continue to work on those as ground conditions permit. Likely it'll be spring before we get those fully completed. But we had a lot of work ongoing. And then finally, SMUD, we had a representative yesterday on the board forestry call regarding fire risk reduction community list application. SMUD is considering submitting an application for that. Reaching out to Ken, Janet, well, hopefully we'll either partner with El Dorado County or pursue that application on our own. We'll keep you posted. Pause for questions.
It's gonna talk to you for meeting next week.
Eric, will you also share what camps and everything with us so far? Because we all want to see.
Yeah, of course. And I appreciate you bringing that up, David. Absolutely. And actually, even more to that point, we actually have shape files of all of the work that we have completed, that entire footprint. And I've talked to Ken and are working with El Dorado County GIS to get those shape files incorporated into the GIS shape files for the county.
And we share those with the water agency too.
EID.
Yeah.
Oh, not just EID, but also El Dorado Water Agency.
Yeah, they're part of the process, David.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Lots going on with
Thanks,
SMUD
Eric.
and super appreciate the partnership there. Okay, I don't see anybody from Sheriff OES today with us. Okay. And then Bureau of Reclamation, I know Elizabeth sent out an email about the update on their goat grazing. I think I need to get that out to the group. It's kind of specific to what's happening up, obviously, on the north part of the county. But that was the only update she was able to provide me, but she definitely is committed to being a partner with us going forward. So we'll keep looking to her for reports. And with that, we'll move on to number 9, program reports, and let's start with grants and grants committee. Tamara.
Okay. In the last month or since the last meeting, I've submitted 4 grant applications. One was, we were invited to submit a full proposal to AIM Cocoa. It's like a collaborative group. We had put together a concept paper, they liked it, so we were invited to submit a full proposal. That's for $75,000 for defensible space and also to pay for our volunteer defensible space professor trainings and the trainings for professionals in the community. So we're just waiting to hear if we get that. We should hear really soon. We also submitted 3 separate CAL FIRE proposals at the suggestion of our fire representatives. So that was fun doing 3 separate CAL FIRE proposals. Each was for around $1 million. We did one for defensible space, one for the hazardous tree program, and one for chipping. So we'll see. I think it's unlikely we'll get all 3. From what I understand, there's around 6 million or so that'll go to the AEU unit, Amador Eldorado unit. So the chances of us getting half of that money, I think, aren't that great. But you know, we put them in, and we'll see. From what I understand, and Ken might know more, but the other CAL FIRE grants that got put in by other entities in El Dorado County, at least, I think EID put in a proposal. I know the U.S. Forest Service put in a proposal, which is interesting to me that California would pay for.
Me too.
Camino, our city council is working with RCD to put in a proposal for south of Highway 50 project, and that was for Forest Health. That was through the Forest Health program, not the fire prevention. I think ALT put in a grant, right? And I don't know, are there any, you did a few letters.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna tag on there. So I believe I ended up doing 5 letters of support, and they were all within sort of the sphere of things we had been talking about. It was Auburn Lake Trails. It was El Dorado Irrigation District. It was SMUD that Eric talked about. It was to the RCD. It was for the RCD on behalf of Camino, again, the Fire Adapted 50 project that they've really embedded that effort into the Fire Adapted 50, really good project now going forward with Caltrans, et cetera. And then lastly, the other letter of support was actually it was for the El Dorado Amador Prescribed Burn Association, looking to do some more work in outreach and coordination with their program. And so they were all programs we're familiar with here. And the deadlines were everything was happening the day before the deadline. And so took a little liberty in discussion with Cameron folks just to get these out. And so to show that support. And I'm not familiar with the Forest Service one. We didn't do those letters. Yeah.
So I did it on behalf of the Georgetown Divide Fire State Council. It's I think fuel reduction, maybe some prescribed burning up on Darling Ridge on the Divide. So yeah, those are the ones we know about. So there may very well be more that we don't know about. So it sounds like it's gonna be a pretty competitive round. Upcoming grants that I know, grant deadlines that I know about, the Women's Fund deadline is the 31st. We've received money from them the last 2 years for the defensible space program. So we'll be submitting again for that. They're small grants, they're around earning what, 8,000. So apply for that. You can only receive money 3 years in a row, and you have to sit out. So this is our 3rd year. There's also BLM has an infrastructure grant opportunity that's due on February 2nd. So we're looking at applying for that for the defensible space program. And then I just got notice that the California Fire Safe Council has another grant opportunity for fuel reduction. I'll send that out, or Ken can send that out to the group in case anybody else is interested in applying. So that's due March 15th. I mean, but we still haven't gotten our money from the grant we've already gotten from California Fire Safe Council. So I'm not sure. Yeah. And this is just a reminder, if you're thinking about a project that you would like El Dorado County Fire Safe Council fiscal sponsorship for, or you're just thinking about it, please talk to me. I can help you think through the project, start thinking about, what needs to be put in place to get ready for fiscal sponsorship and be able to apply for funding. Because there's always, it seems like there's always new grant opportunities. So good to get your ducks in a row. And then when the right grant opportunity comes along, you'll be ready to apply. So just a reminder, reach out to me about that.
Tamara, the Veterans Commission has traditionally given money, Ernie was one behind that before. Have you submitted this time, because there's a lot of money that hasn't been expended, and they really have to get rid of it. So. Tamara would be one now.
Yes, Hayden.
Yeah, follow up with them.
Well, Tamara, it sounds like still home hardening grants just aren't there. And since that's still, a big half, the other half of preparedness.
Yeah.
As a fire safe council, can we advocate maybe to the county about property tax reduction or some other way than grants? How can we address this home hardening piece? Is anybody?
I think it's a statewide challenge, a national challenge, because it's a high cost item, right? And so we're with the pilot program. That's why we really put a lot of effort in when we'll be working with the Placerville Fire Safe Council, and the county as the champion of the Weber Creek project. That's 525 homes demonstrating home hardening as a significant component of that. And I think that's what we're trying to, and we want to try to use what's being learned from that effort to how can we start moving that around other parts. And you're 100% right, Alice. It's a tough nut to crack. And most of them, while they're funding maybe education on the issue, they're not funding the actual work. And the challenge is it's a slippery slope. It can be very costly. There's sometimes over $100,000 people are having to put into re-roof, to re-side, to re-window, all of that stuff. And so I think it's going to have to continue to evolve. But to your point, I do think we have to continue to sort of be that voice as to how important this is, and take targets of opportunity when we can to educate and sort of find out those opportunities. So let's go to Mike Panett and then to David.
You just said about, it's discussed Netflix of $100,000 for window and so forth. Just a curiosity, as the building departments in El Dorado County started imposing defensible space techniques on home building. So when people get permits, they are already defensible.
Well, the county has adopted the building and fire codes, and in 2008, the WUI, the Wildland Urban Interface Building Standards, Chapter 7A, took effect. So all new construction since 2008 has to comply. And again, we can argue over individual homes and what happens there, but at the end of the day, yes, the county is enforcing the WUI building standards as passed in 2008.
But I think a lot has changed between 2008 and 2024, right?
But the county you can only enforce what's in fire and building code. And so those things come down as those things change. Those things are typically adopted, across the board. And so the county is utilizing the latest fire and building codes that have been adopted. David.
So Placerville Fire Safe Council got a $5,000 cannabis grant. And we're gonna use it for home hardening, just doing the vents. My goal is to use Eschaton as a model, and they're figuring out how to self-identify in there. So we'll try to get, because I know that they did not comply with the proper kind of vents and things after when they built the place. So they'll get maybe 5 homes out of 100 of proper vents. So it'll be about $1,000 each, I think. And Mike has to help still.
So I think we have Chris, and then we'll keep moving here.
Just chime on to the cost, Ken, that you just talked about, $100,000. I just paid $41,000 for a new roof, because if I didn't do that, there's a chance I would lose my insurance. So yeah, $41,000 for a retirement now that I never thought that I'd have to spending. Thanks.
Yeah, no, good point. Yes.
So,
Microphone. Do we have a microphone?
all right, Bill, I'll do that. Solano, and I will tell you that the El Dorado Hills Fire Department is enforcing the resistance zone landscaping on new construction in Solano.
Good. All right. Anything else, Tamara, from the grant side?
Good job, Tamara.
Yeah, thank you. Again, huge investment being made, and we really appreciate what Tamara's doing. Okay, assistance programs, we touched on a little bit, and just again to reiterate what Janet said, we mentioned this back at the November meeting. We sort of went to a tactical pause, if you will, for the three programs, D-Space, hazard tree removal, and chipping, for the month of December, to allow the jobs to catch up, and kind of, again, sort of get a level setting of where we're at, in terms of the funding support for the programs while we wait. Catching up on paying contractors, et cetera. I would encourage you to, yes, don't hesitate to share the program. Just let folks know during this sort of window right now that's continuing into January. You know, we're not necessarily assigning out new jobs until we're comfortable that we've got the money in hand to keep going. So we're taking applications, we're processing, but know that. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica to talk about where we're at with the numbers.
All right, hello, everybody. Since we didn't really do much work in December, I created a year-to-date report for all three programs and to share. For our chipping program, for the entire year, we completed 777 jobs. That was 1,517 acres cleared, 131,932 cubic yards chipped, and we spent $316,000 for chipping. For defensible space, out of 341 properties that were assessed, 308 were cleared. The average cost per parcel was about $1,112. We spent $336,856 for the entire year. I just added these numbers. I think some of you might like to know it. We served 88 veterans, 283 seniors, 100 low-income personnel, and we just started collecting disabled, but 18 disabled personnel. For hazardous tree, so far we have assessed 229 parcels. Only 23 have been completed so far. 633 trees have been identified. Only 41 have been cut so far, and we have spent $111,000.
Good job.
That's a lot. Well, and any questions for Jessica on the numbers? Yes, Bob Hens. Yeah, you may as well just stand right there.
Yeah, question about the hazardous tree. You know, when that program first started, I immediately filed an application. I'm not even, the pink ribbon on the tree that they identified is pretty faded. I'm not even sure it's still there now, but any idea when that work is gonna really start ramping up?
What I can tell you is if you have a ribbon on your tree, it will be cut. Depending on what they're doing is they're creating work packages. They're trying to knock them out in bulk. So however many trees are in your area, they may still be collecting a few more, but we have had a meeting with them and we encourage them to work faster.
I don't know how else to see. Karen.
Microphone. Should.
Oh.
They got,
Yeah.
Because she's gonna have to answer.
Can't have my microphone.
Keep Jessica.
Yeah, don't hurt yourself.
Thanks, Jessica. Should we be encouraging the event days again for like chipping? Is that a preference for you?
That is always an option. I mean, we were really successful when we did that. I think I like doing it if it helps. Yeah.
I liked it, yeah. Instead
That's
of
up to
individual
each-
one or two.
Yeah, that's up to
Okay.
your own council though. You know, it's always an option. Just let me know.
Perfect, thank you.
Good. Sorry. David.
My goal is to make Chris look good. Anyway, Firewise people, Jessica has put together spreadsheets, and then one of our volunteers identified which fire safe council each of these locations was in. But we still don't quite have it lined up for Firewise. But, and maybe we get OWAPR's help with that, but all this money can help qualify our communities for Firewise. That's our investment, it's right there in black and white, and it's so hard to gather that information. So, I'm wondering if OWAPR can help with Jessica and not just put in the fire. So identify fire safe councils, be even better, Firewise communities, because then we've got it done.
So I'm not really sure what your question was, but Greenstone Fire Council had sent me an Excel spreadsheet with all the streets within their community. And I was able to generate a report for them based off of the exact streets within their council. So if you create a spreadsheet like that for me, I can get it to your exact council boundaries, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
One thing that Tamara did in one of our CAL FIRE grants was to request some funding for some geospatial capability for Jessica to post into, so that we can tell where every job is done by Firewise community, by Fire Safe Council, by city, by wherever. So that's one of the hopeful things that we have in a grant request, so that we can be more responsive to all of our constituents, whether it be the Fire Safe Councils or people in our community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And kudos to Jessica for that, in addition to Janet and Tamara, because Jessica has been hounding us for 6 months to get out of the Stone Age and work on something. And so she'd been working on a proposal for a while, and it was between Janet and Tamara that looked at how an opportunity could be in this grant. And so, we're hinting to CAL FIRE in the room that we think this is really so. And they're out there washing their trucks right now. No, thank you, Jessica. There's a phenomenal amount of work going in the program. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, anything else? I don't like it. No, awesome. Training, you council.
Well, we do have a few things coming up. First of all, as many of you know, we do have a training education group committee within Fire Safe Council, and I want to thank all of those folks for helping. And as a result of that, several things have happened. On the back table today, there are 3 sign-up sheets back there. The first sign-up sheet, well, the furthest one on the right, is actually for a field maps class that will be put on by CAL FIRE. And that class is scheduled to occur here on the 27th. And it is open to anyone and all who took one of the 2-day training classes we did last year. You have to have already done that, because what this class does is it gets you now access into CAL FIRE's webpage, where when you do your assessment, you can use their form on an iPad or iPhone and submit that, and it'll be in record there. And the reason we want to do that is because, first of all, as you know, last year or year before, there was a law passed that said if you report that way when you do assessments or you do inspections, you get moved up on the list for grants. You'll be more apt to get grants. So we want to start doing that. I can tell you there was some concern about the information report, but I can tell you the information you report is really nothing. It really gives just an address, doesn't have the homeowner's name, just has the address, and it just talks about the construction of the structure. What are the walls, windows, roof, that sort of thing. It's really there for damage assessment. Should a fire occur, when CAL FIRE comes out and does damage assessment, they can call that record up for that address, and that will give them an idea of what was there in the event that it burned down. So that's really primarily what it's for. And so that class is coming up on the 27th. If you're interested, please sign up, because one of the things that we have to do is I have to get your email address and your name to CAL FIRE so they can get you logged into the training program. The training is going to be done there'll be people here, but it'll also be done on a laptop. You have to bring a laptop or something. It's all digital now. All the state fire training is digital. And once that training is done, once that training is done and you pass, then CAL FIRE will give you access into there. So when you log on to Field Maps, you'll get into the maps to be able to do that assessment. So if you're interested, or anyone in your Fire Safe Council that has taken the training is interested, please let us know and let's get signed up. I'll have the sheet there again next month. And so we'll find out how many. So that's coming up. That's coming up on the 27th of February. Then following that, on the 29th of February, we are going to be doing a workshop. We're going to be doing a workshop for insurance companies and realtors. It's essentially the 2-day class that we did for folks last year, except it's down to 1 day, and then we call it a workshop, not a training class. And the same training group, the training group that did that will be training those people. I'm working with who's a farmer's agent out of Cameron Park. He's putting together the insurance and the realtor people, getting that. He's assured me he said he could easily get us 45 to 90 people from those two organizations. If we have 90, we'll probably have to do more than one of those. But if we have 45 or so, we'll do it here. So it's just for those folks. It'll be a workshop for those folks that are in the insurance business and those folks that are in the real estate business. I can tell you from my experience, and I've had a fair amount now dealing with various insurance people, they don't know any more than you or I do about the insurance rates and the FAIR Plan or any of that. They only know what their company tells them. They don't know what we do. They don't know anything about assessments. They don't know anything. They're very interested in what we do and what we talk about as far as home hardening and that sort of thing. So we're going to spend a lot of time doing that. We're also working to try to get one of the major players from the FAIR Plan here to be part of that so that they can talk to them also. So that's coming up. That's one of the things, excuse me, that the training group is working on. And then in April, this year, we're going to do another 2-day training class for anyone in the Fire Safe Council that has folks that want to become assessors, just like we did last year. It's the same class, the same 2-day class. There's sign-up sheets in the back. We're scheduling one class. Now you ask me, well, why you have 2 sign-up sheets? The sign-up sheets are for 2 separate days. It's either the 5th or 6th or the 19th and 20th. And I say, or, not both. And the reason we've set those dates right now is because that's when I can get all the folks that are involved in the training. Everybody's busy. So we try to get them there. And whichever of those 2, it's a Friday and a Saturday, whichever of those has the most sign up, that's the day we'll do. So if you have folks, please get them signed up. I'll have sign up sheets again there next month. So check with all your folks if you're interested. We'll do that. So that's really kind of the 3 major things that are coming up. With that, we'll also be sending out, we'll have a meeting coming up this month with the training group again to finalize a list of workshops. Like Tamara did a workshop, Alice did a workshop after this meeting. So we have sat down and we've shotgunned a list of different things that we all think might be good classes or workshops to put on after these meetings. This month, we're going to finalize that list at our meeting coming up later this month, and we'll get that out to all of you so you can look at that and go through that list. And we'll tell you, when we try to do at least one a quarter, maybe more, depending, but one a quarter. And you can look at that list and you can say, yeah, I'm interested in that one. I don't care so much about that one, but I'm in that. So we'll get that out to you. So that should be forthcoming. So that's what's going on in your training. Question.
Yeah, the only question I have for you is just to be clear, for that insurance and realtor one, you don't need people that are already defensible space trained to be a.
No, that we're going to just do the trainers, the instructors, I guess, are going to just do a 1-day brief workshop to try to educate the insurance people and the realtors on what our Fire Safe Council assessors are doing. What does the state law say? What does 4290? Well, they don't know. I'm telling you, they don't know. What does it say? What are we doing when we go out there? So if a homeowner calls an insurance agent and says, hey, I'm in a fire safe council and I had them come out and do an assessment of my house. At least they have some idea of what was done or what they were told. So, yes.
So we have many people in our community that are realtors or insurance people, so if I send this out to them, this will be a good thing to send to just specific people that I know in our community that are realtors or insurance.
Yeah, if they're interested, I would have them, and he's not here to defend himself, but I would have them call Ryan Nuttall. He's at the farmer's agent there in Cameron Park. If they're insurance, they probably know him. And the reason he's doing it is because he talks to a lot of insurance companies and realtors and stuff. He said, hey, I'll do it. I'll get the people for you. So, is he? Okay, that's why. Yes.
Shop, and then we can just forward it to whoever.
Yeah, that took the class. I can send it to Ken, I guess, who can send it
You're
out.
thinking specifically to get insurance and real estate folks, is that the audience? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think the important piece is, I mean, obviously space can be limited, so I think make sure it's really their bona fide. This is really geared towards insurance and real estate, not sort of the general populace. Perfect.
Yeah.
So we're happy, yes, I'll have you get me the particulars and I'll get it out to the regular email group, so then you can use that as however you need.
I want to be a little bit careful with this because Ryan, he said, I'll take this on and I'll contact all these people for you. So I want to be a little bit careful. Now I'm going to call them and say, hey, look out, here it comes. But I want to be a little bit careful when all of a sudden all these people start calling him, because he kind of told me he would take this on and let me know, but he hasn't said anything yet. So shame on him. And so we'll get it out.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Huh?
His wife's a realtor.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably
double whammy.
Probably why.
All right. Thank you, Hugh. Education outreach, Alice.
See, the next fire class is gonna come out by the end of the month. Article, let me know. But also Ernie had a really cool idea to, this year at the fair, possibly have a project where we open it to kids, doing fire safety posters like they had done on class. And so it could be something that would then be displayed, at the fair. And so, I thought that was a really, really cool idea, kind of like they do with the mats, the kids make those mats. And it's an important enough subject, I think that maybe, it would be something people would be interested in. If there's anybody here who would like to take that on or, work with me, please let me know, because I think it's a really cool idea. Then the last thing I want to talk about just was banners. So another thing, I keep trying to think of ways to reach all these people that aren't in fire safe councils, as well as our own fire safe councils, and yet another way that other than meetings, and I think banners can be really helpful. CAL FIRE has loaned us actually, maybe it's more than maybe 4 posters that we now have, banners that can go from fire safe council to fire safe council, and we kind of just spread these around the county. We're also still, I did meet with Elizabeth, I talked about this last time, where we're trying to also create at least 5 of different messages, like the 0 to 5 feet, the defensible space, home hardening, the road access, things like that. Then different fire safe councils can borrow for a month and put up in their area, and then we can move them to others. And so if this is something you think you'd be interested in, please let me know, because I'm still trying to figure out, well, should we make 2 sets of these, 1 set of these? How many of these do we even need? And then the other question is, would it be helpful, it seems like, also to have one for the chipping program and one for the defensible space program? In addition to these, and because those projects are pretty much constantly funded, right? But not the hazard tree one, is that right? So if we could have a chipping poster that went to, Fort Jim, and they had it up for a month, and then somebody else had it up for a month.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah.
So those 2. Again, this would be for next fiscal year, so this is still getting geared up in the fall, the next budget, which comes out to July 1st. So, yeah, if that's something you think that your fire safety council might be interested in, it'd be good to let me know, because then we may end up with more than 1 set, maybe 2 sets. And also, the CAL FIRE ones that we have right now, you can already borrow, except that Oak Hill is about to borrow them. But after we're done, if anybody wants to borrow them, say for February or March, let me know. That's it. Thank you.
Good. And she doesn't know it yet, but Jenna's being tasked with, and OWOP is sort of going to help take the lead this year on being the glue for the fair. to help pull it together. So more to come there. Yeah, she's got the thumbs up. So yeah,
She's so glad she came.
yes, more to come. So great. Thank you, Alice, as always. And I think I owe you an abridged version. Yes, so I'll get on that. So, all right, Karen, governance, nothing. Right, she'll come home, right?
New council formation and orientation, the last new fire safe council was rescue, but we're always here. If you have any questions, the existing fire safe councils, if you have any questions, please reach out and let us know. We're here to help.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, and then so that I'm gonna handle this item 10 this way. I'm gonna turn it over to both David and Chris, since you're all the items there. The two of you fight over it. Just make it short, succinct, so we can keep moving.
Going first. So some of this is kind of old discussion or comments, and now I'm bringing some new things in. Let's start with the past. There was an application that was submitted, I believe, in the fall for Black Oak Mine Unified School District. And that was an important one. The school district itself was getting involved and was going to be wrapping that up into their education element. And so that, I'm not sure what the status is, but I just want to let you know that that was going on. Okay, that was a grant application. Did they get it? Okay, David said that they got it. So that's going to be really great for now getting the kids involved, and that's some of the things that are important to Alice, I know, and others. Next thing, Sierra Pacific Industries is pretty important because they own some important properties, larger properties. One is in Comito, obviously, but also I found out they may own the old or the former Wetzel Oviatt Lumber Company off of Latrobe Road, 80 acres. Renewable Biofuels had an interest in that 80-acre property. And so I understand that there may be some discussions going on right now for the use of that for that purpose. Why is that important? Because it's right alongside the railroad. Essentially, if the railroad was in place, you could have heavier loads come into a facility in terms of the Sacramento metro area, or not. But there's also a lot of residential development going on there. So that's also an issue that they got to work out. The next project then would be Camino, and I understand that that's not out of the question. It's just that it hasn't developed into anything of substance at this point, unless somebody could tell me otherwise. Okay, and then finally, and this goes to Ernie. I understand that there's been some discussion in Grizzly Flats about bringing in a portable plant to take some of the debris that has accumulated and turn it into biomass cogeneration. This is just an idea that I've heard, but the reason why it's got substance is because it's got some connection to the Sierra Institute for Community and Environment in Taylorsville up in Plumas County, and they've already done this. So if we followed what they've already been doing, there's a possibility that their success up in their area, Northern California, would come out and we could use that success. Ken, have you heard anything along that line?
No, he's not familiar with this.
Okay, all right, so that's my report. I'm gonna pass it over to.
You got one.
Oh, you got one.
And Ernie and Ken, those projects are in Plumas County, and so just
Yeah.
so you know. The next, so far, we'll have cohesive strategy group meeting. It was the landscape vision group, and that's January 25th. It's a 1 p.m. Zoom meeting. And if you want to participate, send me an email so I can throw a link at you. That covers the drainage of the South Fork, and my brain's gone funny. Also, the creek that goes from Plumbing Meadows into Casumas River, C, and it's 4 letters. I can't remember the name. That's part of our group. And then the RAP, Really, everyone should be participating. It's the United Policyholders has a Zoom meeting January 23rd at 1 p.m. And that's what the insurance commissioner always is coordinating with them. So if you have any fire insurance concerns, and I will keep our fire insurance, that's a good group to interface with. I think I'll be able to make that one, and I always send my notes to the executive committee and the staff, and so if you want to see my notes, that's fine, but I encourage you to attend. I think that's it on this group.
Thank you, David. Okay, lastly, we're down to community council reports, and I will preface it with, I have 3 maps. I have Fort Jim, Sandridge, and Rescue Community. So folks that are here representing that today, come get these before you leave. And it's just, this is a culmination of, we finally got all of the fire safe councils on the map, updated to the current status, not only on the county data hub online mapping program. And again, kudos to County GIS, because a lot of effort fine tuning the boundaries, but it's all up to date and it's live there. But then also we've now got it on the Fire Safe Council website under the Associate Fire Safe Councils tab. So work in progress, but there it is. So I've got the map. So with that, community council reports is a chance to share what's happening. Yes, Michael.
Thank you, Ken. Mike Connell, with Auburn Lake Trails Fire Safe Council. For the 19th consecutive year, we received certification from the NFPA that we're a Firewise USA community. And last week we had the kickoff meeting for our chipper grant from Cal Fire. Monday we had 800 goats arrive on our border to do fuel reduction in Auburn State Recreation Land that's immediately adjacent to Auburn Lake Trails. And we're having a seminar on home hardening tomorrow evening and Saturday morning. Thank you.
Alice is moving towards the microphone. Alice.
So we're really trying to take advantage of winter for education. So we have some winter workshops, we call them. One actually is tonight here. Another one is next month, where we're trying, this one tonight, we're focusing on newcomers especially, so it's like everything. Wildfire prep 101 is what we're calling it. We're doing home hardening, defensible space insurance, it all in 1 hour. Should be interesting. And then also green waste dump for the January, this Saturday actually. And so we're trying to take advantage of the school weather actually for these things.
Thank you, Alice. Others? Bob.
Bob Hess, Cool Willis Fire Safe Council. Wanted to bring up to speed a couple things. We've been working at Firewise. Had a lot of help from Gallagher Road Fire Safe Council, David Plastico, Oakville, and Greenstone. And as a result, we've got a great team, and we put together a online risk assessment. Got pretty good high rate of return. And if anybody wants to know how we did that, contact me. So our risk assessment is done, and now we're working on the 3-year action plan. We should have that in within a couple of weeks. Also, thanks to Richard Belden on that. The other thing is, we got this $705,000 roadside fuel reduction grant, and we've been involved in the bidding. It's been awarded. We actually started work last week. I think some of you know that we have 45 what we call roadside road ambassadors. They were very active in getting the red electric forms signed, and now they are really helping out with some of the folks along these roads that where the fuel reduction is taking place. And I might add, some of these are backwoods areas where some folks are not too thrilled about having people get on their property and whatnot. So road ambassadors are really helping with that. So crossing my fingers that this goes smoothly. Last but not least, and maybe I talked to Karen about this, we have a community that's requesting
The annex in our fire safe, I'm not sure where to go with that. That's where we are.
Perfect. Others? Let's see, we'll go Karen and then David. Karen.
Thank you. Mosquito Fire Safe Council, we got our renewal from our Firewise renewal. And really a shout out to CAL FIRE and whoever is reviewing them for them. We got ours. I got a notice that said that there was a conflict on some numbers. One place wrote 951 and the next place wrote 935 or something.
I had the same problem. Did exactly the same thing.
So I quickly corrected it and I corrected it that same day, sent it in, and the next morning I woke up to you're approved. Thank you to, whoever followed through with that. We also had our treatment plan walkthrough for our grant with RCD. Alex Stevens, I believe his name is, very nice gentleman. Came and they did our treatment plan walkthrough with our committee. They determined the area that's going to be treated with our grant. And we've got all of the ROEs out for our homeowners. Also with the help of the road association. So we're down to having not heard back from 4 of them, and that's it. And so we're working on that. So that's us.
Thank you, Karen. David.
Okay, March 23rd, 9 to 3, Fossil Fire Safe Council in the Midtown Mall, our wildfire safety event. And then on February 22nd at 6 p.m., Dan Bolster of the El Dorado County Transportation
Commission.
There we go. Is going to be putting on a presentation on the whole evacuation plan. And they use the word greater Fossil, and they seem to go almost as far as Hybers and all the way down to Shingle Spring. So seems to me other fire safe councils would be interested in it too.
And I think just clarifying, it's not a plan. The Transportation Commission received a grant from Caltrans to do a study on evacuation, et cetera, based on, wildfire. And so they've been working with a contractor. And so I think what they're now doing is releasing sort of the results of that study as to what the impacts are.
Okay, well, we did want also to come also.
They call it a draft plan. We're gonna come there.
Right, I think that, and I just it's a nuance. I would just be careful thinking that it's going to be identifying this discussion we always have about evacuation, a lot of discussion about evacuation routes, but it was really, people should go because it's very informative about different scenarios, different fires, and the impacts it has on roads and where the traffic goes.
When Dan clarifies where exactly the meeting will be, I guess it's gonna be in some county buildings. I'll try to share that with Carrie or somebody, and so she can pass it on.
Should be shared with everybody.
Yep, yeah, we can get that out.
Well, Dan may limit which fire safety councils he wants. So he's invited to last one. I don't know, it's not that big a room to put a word about this. Oh. We'll find out, get a bigger room, we'll find out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tamara.
So finally, we're up on the Georgetown Divide Fire Safe Council, and we have a bunch of projects that have been kind of sitting there that are now moving, which I'm very excited about. One that was already happening is we're doing around 400 acres of BLM land along Shoot Fly Road in Kelsey, and we should be finishing up that acreage this winter. So that'll be a great field break for kind of the whole divide, any fires that would be coming up from the river. We also finished as part of that an exit route for a big chunk of people on Traverse Creek Road. So that's been very exciting for our little community up there. We are just went through the bid process for roadside fuel reduction on commercial between Georgetown and Garden Valley, again, a pretty important evacuation route for a lot of people in there. So hopefully we'll be starting that roadside work in about a month, I'm guessing. And then we're also, and then we also have this $5 million Forest Health grant. That will be around 900 to 1,000 acres. So we put out we've started getting the ROEs on some of that acreage. So we're going to start, I think, doing chunks of that rather than trying to get all the ROEs all at once, get kind of a critical mass of ROEs and start doing more kind of work through that landscape. And then as part of that, I talked about this last summer, but we had to put it on hold because RCD staffing was, there was some turnover, but we are restarting our Garden Valley planning process, having a larger community meeting. I think it's going to be on March 20th. I'll have a definite date by the next meeting. So the goal of that meeting will be presenting kind of existing conditions and potential roads we could be doing in the community and potential areas for fuel break. And then getting not just community feedback, but community buy-in and agreement for participation before, as part of our plan. So we're doing our own little mini CWPP in Garden Valley. So Tom, are you still there? I was thinking it might be interesting for you to come to that meeting because I'm wondering if that will help inform.
So, yeah, and I think these kind of plans are good. I think what I want to caution everybody, we're trending towards one official CWPP for the Western Slope, but these kinds of the grassroots discussions are what has to inform that document. And so, but the problem is words matter. And so what I don't want is folks to think that there's these different initiatives to generate individual CWPPs. We're trying to roll up all of this planning into one effort, so we're all together in one broader piece, but it has to start at this level. So we don't want to, it's words matter. It's not the effort. The effort needs to happen exactly like it's happening.
We already got the grant to do this long before the CWP process is happening. But from my perspective, I'm hoping it's kind of a test case for how we can use this planning process in communities around the Western Slope. Because all along, earlier, my intention has been, or from what I've seen, is that part of the reason it's so hard to get these ROEs, and I think Paloma has done a really great job of figuring this out, is that we, a very small group of people decide what the project should be and put it out there, and then we try to get community buy-in. And so we're trying to do it the other way around. Like before we write any grants or figure out any projects, we want the community buy-in first. And frankly, I'm going to, be really clear about where we have to prioritize our work. And so we're going to prioritize it where we have community support, right? Okay. So yeah, go ahead, Chris. You have a question?
Sorry. Don't get nervous, Ken. I know we're way out over our limit of 11:30. I guess people could stay around a little longer today rather than some days. But my point is, you, Tamara, have a position within the El Dorado County Fire Safe Council to do, it says in here, grants and funding grants committee. That's a function that you have. Sometimes when you speak about community and your own community, I get confused as to what role you're doing. If you can be clear and articulate, I'm speaking in behalf, and that would help Ken. And I think it's just because I don't want anybody to think I know her really well and she can do that, split these things up.
Well, I just assumed because we were speaking under community council reports, and she's a board of directors for the Georgetown Divide, and she opened up her discussion with that I was good with that. But yes, I think we all have to remember that in the different roles we play. But and I'm comfortable with. I understood exactly what she was saying. So, thank you. Any other council reports? Or you have more? Sorry. Yes.
attending that meeting, just to sort of see how it goes, use it as a test case. I will put it out there. And I think, Tom, it would be particularly great for you to do that. So, yeah.
Thanks, Tamara. Other councils? I'm not seeing any or hearing any in the room or online. Public comment, anything that hasn't already been discussed via community council reports for the betterment of the organization. Okay, so Glenn, yes, thank you. As Chris said, we're definitely a half an hour over. The challenge is we just oftentimes have a lot of good information, and I don't want to shut down folks when we're really trying to get good information across, and we tend to sometimes blend our stakeholder good information reports into our bigger meeting, which is just important for all of us to share. So again, we'll continue to strive to keep the meetings within the time frame, but I appreciate everybody's patience. But the participation in the discussion is phenomenal, and I think this is really what we want to have happen here. So thank you all for your patience. Our next meeting is February 21st here. So, and again, as always, we'll work to get some of this follow-up information out. With that, thank you, and meeting is adjourned.